Hi, I'm Blake. Never thought I'd be telling a story about my own daughter leaving me in the middle of nowhere, but here we are. 63 years old, and I'm learning that family ties can unravel faster than a cheap sweater. Mom, we should take the scenic route through the national park, Diane had suggested that morning, her voice honey-sweet as she poured coffee in my kitchen. Mark found this amazing overlook spot. You'll love the view. I stirred my coffee slowly. That's a pretty remote area, isn't it? I'm not exactly dressed for hiking. Mark leaned against my counter, scrolling through his phone. It's just a quick stop. Besides, you're always saying you need more adventure in your life. His tone held that familiar edge of mockery that I'd grown to recognize over the past 3 years since he married Diane. She's right, Mark. Maybe we should stick to the original plan. My daughter's eyes flicked toward him nervously. Mark's jaw tightened. We're already running late for the appointment. This route is faster anyway. What appointment? I asked. I thought we were just having lunch together. Diane suddenly became very interested in her coffee mug. Oh, just some paperwork for Dad's estate. Nothing important. Paperwork I should know about? I pressed. Mom, please don't start. You know how emotional you get about Dad's things. I locked eyes with my daughter. Emotional? It's been 6 months since your father passed. I think I'm entitled to know what's happening with our assets. You see? Mark whispered loudly to Diane. This is exactly why we didn't tell her. Tell me what? I demanded. Diane shot Mark a warning look. Nothing. Let's just go, okay? It's a beautiful day for a drive. 2 hours later, we were deep in desert territory. The road had narrowed to a dirt path, and the cell service bars on my phone had disappeared entirely. Are you sure this is right? I asked, peering out at the endless sand and scrub brush. There's nothing out here. Just around this bend, Mark insisted, pulling over near a small outcropping of rocks. Come on, the view is up here. I followed them reluctantly, climbing carefully over the uneven terrain. The overlook was admittedly spectacular. Miles of desert landscape stretching to distant mountains. Beautiful, isn't it? Diane said, standing unusually close to the edge. It is, I admitted, taking out my phone. Let me get a picture. Oh, your phone won't work out here, Mark said quickly. No service. Use mine. He handed me his phone and stepped back. As I framed the shot, I heard the unmistakable sound of car doors closing and an engine starting. I turned to see our car pulling away, dust billowing behind it. Diane! I screamed, scrambling down the rocks. Mark! What are you doing? The car stopped briefly. The passenger window rolled down and my daughter's face appeared. Good luck getting home, Mom, she called out, her voice carrying across the emptiness. Maybe this will teach you to stop interfering in our lives. Mark leaned over, laughing. Don't worry, someone will come along, eventually. Consider it an adventure? What about your father's estate? I shouted, the pieces suddenly clicking together. That's what this is about, isn't it? Diane's face hardened. We need that money, Mom. Dad would have wanted us to have it. You'll regret this, I called after them as they drove away, leaving me alone with Mark's phone, which I quickly discovered had been wiped of all apps and contacts, with only the camera function working. I stood there, the desert sun beating down on my head, clutching a useless phone and facing the bitter reality that my own daughter had just left me to die. 8 grueling hours later, I sat wrapped in a blanket in the sheriff's station, a cup of lukewarm coffee trembling in my hands. So you're absolutely certain it was deliberate, Mrs. Harrison? Officer Rodriguez asked, her pen poised over her notepad. They said good luck getting home and laughed, I replied, my voice still raspy from shouting for help. They took the car and left me with a wiped phone. What part of that sounds accidental to you? The female officer's expression softened. I'm sorry. I have to ask these questions. Abandonment with intent to endanger is a serious charge. If that trucker hadn't come along, my voice cracked. Rodriguez nodded grimly. The temperature drops fast in the desert. You were already showing signs of dehydration when he found you. Found her half collapsed by the roadside, a gruff voice added. I looked up to see the trucker, Sam, his weathered face creased with concern as he entered with another officer. Ma'am was waving that useless phone like a flag, trying to get my attention. "And you saw no one else in the area?" Rodriguez asked him. Sam shook his head. "Not a soul for miles. Been driving that route 15 years. Nobody goes out there unless they're up to no good. Or being taken there against their better judgment," I murmured. "Did you notice anything else unusual?" Rodriguez pressed. Sam scratched his beard. "Well, about 2 miles back, I did see a sedan parked at the gas station. Man and woman inside, looking mighty nervous when my rig pulled in. Drove off real quick like." "Could you identify them?" Rodriguez asked sharply. "Didn't see faces clear enough, but I got their license plate. Force of habit." He handed over a scrap of paper. "Wrote it down, thought it might be important." Rodriguez's eyes widened slightly as she read it. "This matches the vehicle description Mrs. Harrison gave us." The door burst open, and my sister Elaine rushed in, her face pale with shock. "Blake, oh my God!" She engulfed me in a hug. "When the hospital called, I couldn't believe it. Diane did this? You're Diane?" "And Mark," I said. "They've been planning it. Something about Dad's estate." Elaine pulled back, her eyes flashing. "The trust fund? That's what this was about?" Officer Rodriguez cleared her throat. "Mrs. Harrison mentioned a potential financial motive. We're looking into it." "They had an appointment today," I explained. "Something about paperwork." Elaine grabbed her phone. "I'm calling Nathan right now." She dialed quickly. "Nathan, it's Elaine. Did Diane and Mark come to see you today about Jim's estate?" Her face darkened as she listened. "They what? With what authorization? No, Blake is right here. She's been in the desert since this morning because they abandoned her there." She handed the phone to Officer Rodriguez, who took it immediately. "This is Officer Carmen Rodriguez, Mojave County Sheriff's Department. Who am I speaking with?" She listened intently. "Mr. Baxter, I need you to freeze any transactions related to James Harrison's estate immediately. We have an active investigation involving attempted fraud and reckless endangerment." After she hung up, she turned to me. "Your family lawyer confirms they attempted to execute changes to your husband's will today, using a forged power of attorney document. He became suspicious and stalled them." "They were willing to let me die for money," I whispered. "It gets worse," Elaine said, checking her phone messages. "Nathan just texted. They had papers claiming you were mentally incompetent. Said you'd wandered off before." Sam the trucker snorted. "Lady looks plenty competent to me. Just dehydrated and betrayed." "We should get you properly checked at the hospital," Rodriguez said. "No," I said firmly. "I want to give my statement now while it's all fresh. I want every detail on record." Elaine squeezed my hand. "We need to get everything on record. Bank accounts, property titles, everything." "Already compiling evidence," Rodriguez said, typing rapidly on her computer. "We'll need photos of your condition upon rescue, medical reports, and statements from the trucker who found you." "Do you have their address?" Elaine asked. "I want to confront them myself." Rodriguez shook her head firmly. "Absolutely not. We'll handle the apprehension. In fact," she checked her computer again. "They're being picked up now. But we need to discuss your options going forward, Mrs. Harrison." "Options?" I asked. "How far you want to take this legally," she explained. "And whether you're willing to testify." I straightened up, something cold and determined settling in my chest. "They left me to die in the desert for money. What do you think?" 3 days later, I sat in the police station's interview room, facing my daughter and son-in-law across the table. Their lawyer sat beside them, looking uncomfortable, while Officer Rodriguez and the district attorney stood behind me. "Recording is on," Rodriguez stated for the record. Diane's mascara was smudged from crying. "Mom, you have to believe me. We never meant for you to get hurt." "Really?" I asked, my voice flat. "You drove away laughing. You said, 'Good luck getting home,' while stranding me in an area with no cell service and temperatures that dropped to near freezing at night." "It was Mark's idea," she blurted out. Mark's head snapped toward her. "Diane, what the hell?" "It's true." Her voice rose hysterically. "You said we'd just scare her a little, that someone would come along in an hour or two." "You both seemed pretty clear on your intentions," I said coldly, especially the part about needing Dad's money. The lawyer placed a restraining hand on Mark's arm. My clients acknowledge a serious lapse in judgment. A lapse in judgment? I interrupted. Is that what you call attempted murder now? That's not what happened, Diane cried. Mom, please. We were desperate. The gambling debts, the mortgage. We were about to lose everything. So you decided to lose me instead, I replied. Mark leaned forward, his face tight with anger. You were always controlling the money, holding it over our heads. What were we supposed to do? Not leave your mother-in-law to die in the desert? Rodriguez suggested dryly. We came back, Mark insisted. We drove back after a few hours, but you were already gone. Convenient, the district attorney murmured. No witnesses to this alleged return, of course. You expect us to believe that? I asked incredulously. After you wiped the phone and took the car? After you tried to forge documents claiming I was incompetent? What? Mark's face paled. Who told you that? Nathan Baxter, I said. Our family lawyer. Remember him? The one who didn't buy your story? That was your idea, Diane hissed at Mark. But you signed the papers, he shot back. Because you said we needed to protect Mom from herself. By declaring her insane and stealing her money? I asked. It wasn't like that, Diane pleaded. Dad left everything in your control, but you wouldn't help us with the house payments. The house payments you couldn't make because of Mark's gambling? I finished for her. That's not fair, Mark protested. I was trying to fix our problems. By throwing good money after bad, I retorted. Just like your father, Diane. The same addiction that nearly ruined our marriage until he got help. But you couldn't see it, could you? Don't bring Dad into this, Diane warned, her voice hardening. Why not? You brought him into it when you claimed he'd want you to have that money. He specifically put it in a trust to prevent exactly this situation. Mom, Diane sobbed, reaching across the table. I'm so sorry. We made a terrible mistake. But please don't do this. Don't send your own daughter to prison. I looked at her tear-stained face, remembering the little girl I'd raised, the woman who had held my hand at her father's funeral. Then I remembered her face through the car window, laughing as they drove away. You stopped being my daughter the moment you decided my life was worth less than Dad's money, I said quietly. Mrs. Harrison, their lawyer interjected, we're prepared to make restitution. Full medical expenses, emotional damages. I don't want their money. I cut him off. I want justice. Mark's composure finally broke. He slammed his fist on the table. You vindictive old bitch! You've always hated me. Always tried to come between us. The lawyer tried to restrain him. Mark, stop! You think anyone will believe you over us? Mark snarled, standing up. Your own family? It'll be your word against ours. Officer Rodriguez stepped forward. Actually, it won't. Mr. Peterson provided us with quite convincing dashcam footage of your vehicle leaving the scene. And the wiped phone you left her with still had GPS data, not to mention the forged documents you tried to pass off to Mr. Baxter. This interview is over, their lawyer announced, standing abruptly. My clients have nothing more to say. As they were let out, Diane turned back, her face streaked with tears. Mom, please. I'll do anything. I looked at my daughter for what felt like the last time. You already did. All rise. Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Wilson presiding. I smoothed down my skirt as I stood, Elaine's steadying hand on my arm. Across the courtroom, Diane and Mark rose as well, both dressed in sober colors that couldn't mask their haggard appearances after 3 months in county jail awaiting trial. When it was my turn to testify, I walked to the witness stand with my head high. Mrs. Harrison, the prosecutor began, please tell the court in your own words what happened on April 15th. I recounted the story clearly, my voice gaining strength with each detail. When the defense attorney cross-examined me, his tone dripped with condescension. Isn't it possible, Mrs. Harrison, that this was merely a misunderstanding? A practical joke gone wrong? Is leaving someone to die in the desert your idea of a practical joke, counselor? I replied. And isn't it true that you've never approved of your daughter's marriage? That you've withheld financial support as a means of control? I leaned forward. My husband left specific instructions in his will. I was following his wishes. And no disapproval of a marriage justifies attempted murder. That's a very serious accusation. Yes, it is, I interrupted. Almost as serious as being left to die of exposure by your own child. After the testimonies concluded and the jury left to deliberate, Diane approached me in the hallway, her attorney hovering nervously nearby. Mom, she whispered, I know you'll never forgive me, but please withdraw the charges. For Dad's sake. I looked at her steadily. Your father would be ashamed of what you've become. I made a mistake, one terrible mistake, she cried. No, I corrected her. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. What you did was calculate how much my life was worth to you and decide it was less than money. What can I do to make this right? Her voice broke. Nothing, I said simply. Some things can't be fixed. Diane, some betrayals cut too deep. The bailiff called us back in as the jury returned. When the verdict was read, guilty on all counts, Mark collapsed in his chair, while Diane stared straight ahead, tears streaming down her face. 6 months later, I sat on my porch with Elaine and Officer Rodriguez, who had become a friend during the long legal process. You know, Carmen said, sipping her iced tea, most victims I see never get this kind of closure. You should be proud of yourself. I'm not proud, I replied. Just at peace. Have you read any of Diane's letters? Elaine asked carefully. I shook my head. They're in a drawer. Maybe someday I'll want to read them, but not yet. She gets parole in 5 years, Carmen reminded me. Mark's got longer, but eventually they'll be out and I'll still be here. I finished for her. Living my life. That's my revenge. Is it enough? Elaine asked quietly. I watched the sunset painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, so different from the harsh desert light of that terrible day. It has to be, I answered. Justice isn't about getting even. It's about making sure the truth is known, about making sure no one can abandon you in the desert and just walk away laughing. I turned to my friends, raising my glass in a toast, to surviving what was meant to destroy us. Sam, the trucker who had rescued me, joined us later that evening, bringing a bottle of whiskey and his weathered stories. Funny how life works, he remarked, pouring small measures into our glasses. That day I almost took a different route. Dispatcher suggested it, said it'd save time. What made you stick to your original path? Carmen asked. Sam shrugged his broad shoulders. Gut feeling. Something told me to stay the course. He raised his glass. To gut feelings and to folks who don't give up easy. How do you do it? I asked him. Drive those lonely roads day after day, seeing the worst of people sometimes? Same way you're doing it now, ma'am, he replied. 1 mile at a time, and remembering that for every person who'd leave you in the desert, there's another who'd stop to help. As the stars emerged in the desert sky, bright and clear, I felt the weight of betrayal lifting slightly. My daughter and her husband had tried to bury me, but they'd forgotten I was a seed. What they'd intended to destroy me had instead planted me somewhere new, somewhere I could still grow. To new beginnings, Elaine said, raising her glass. And to endings that needed to happen, I added softly. What would you do if someone you loved betrayed you so completely? Would you find the strength to seek justice, or would you choose forgiveness? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of survival and justice.